do? We'll make it a bit. If he can't hear me, you can say it what I'm saying to him.
See, I can't hear anything he's saying.
That's fine. That's great. That's great.
I think it's selective deafness.
All right, just make a bit out of it.
Okay. We are joined by Matt Jones, the founder of Kentucky Sports Radio. And Matt, you're driving right now. Please be safe. Please be careful.
I got you.
I need to know, because my preseason assumption, you might have blown it all up. Because one of my biggest preseason assumption was because Mark Stoops' buyout would be payable in a lump sum within 60 days, and it's this massive number, $37 million, whatever it is, that Kentucky wouldn't do that. You said on the radio, the money's probably there if they need it, if they decide to go that route. How did it get here?
Well, let's start with this. They don't want to do it, and it will be a very, very, very difficult pill to swallow. I don't know, maybe you all do, how many contracts have ever had it to where the buyout is paid within 60 days? Or I don't know.
Kevin Sumlin's was the big one. Kevin Sumlin got 2 extra years at A&M because of that.
Yeah, so I think that it's very negative, but it's hard to overreact to how toxic things are going to be if they keep losing this year. I mean, right now, people are kind of resigned to Kentucky not being good, but it's more like if they finish 3-9, which if you look at their schedule is very possible. They play Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Vandy, Auburn, and Louisville. It's not certain they win any of those games. If they finish 3-9, I don't think Kentucky can afford to bring him back because there will be no donations for NIL. There will be no season ticket renewals, or at least a huge downgrade on them. They just can't do it. So what I was told is, look, $37 million is awful. They don't want to do it, and they would hope to find a way around it. But they are aware that even with all the costs, and this is a tough year for Kentucky because they're doing expansions, they're thinking about an entertainment district, that there is an understanding that, like, in a doomsday scenario, you might just have to do it.
Can you hear me now? Andy, ask him what a doomsday scenario is.
Yes. Okay. The funniest part here is, I don't know how this is happening, but Matt can't hear Ari. And I just think it's selective. I think he's pretending not to be able to hear him, which is even funnier.
Ari, I don't know that Ari and I have ever actually interacted, and I like Ari's stuff. So it's a shame that he decided to mute when he talks to me. But at least I get to look at him while I'm doing it.
Yeah. Well, okay. But he's wondering. Okay, the doomsday scenario is that 3-9, or is it a certain way they lose, or how does that happen? Because this is a good question. Much
3-9. 3-9 is doomsday. I think 4-8 is pretty close to doomsday. 6-6, he's fine. And then 5-7 is the scenario you were talking about with Kevin Sumlin, where I don't think anyone would be happy, but they'd probably just, because of the $37 million, swallow it and deal with it. But I don't think anybody, if you ask people, if you got them in an honest truth serum moment, nobody wants Kentucky to win 5 games. That's the worst thing that could happen. They'd rather it be 3 or 4 and 6. Because the thing is, if you were to win 5, they'd have to beat 2 pretty good teams on their schedule, right? I mean, you look at Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Auburn, Vandy, Louisville. You win 2 of those. Those are 2 decent teams, right? Mm-hmm. So I think if you win 0 or you win 1, then it's easier. Plus, the other thing is their road games, Tennessee or Vandy, Auburn, and Louisville. If you had those games at home, you might feel like you could win those games, right? But you have to go on the road, and then the games in theory that you don't think you're going to win either way, Texas, Tennessee, and maybe Florida, you're playing those at home. So it's about a worst case schedule scenario.
It is amazing to me, and you know, I'm assuming that Stoops wouldn't negotiate like a Bobby Bonilla deal or anything like that to stretch this out and make more money, because there was a report from somebody else last week about, you know, that he went. They said he went to the administration last year to talk about negotiating a buyout, and he was adamant about that after the Georgia game. We got that clip. Here's Mark Stoops after the Georgia game talking about that.
Mark, there was a radio report that got a lot of traction yesterday that approached the administration about negotiating an exit last year. Is there any truth to that?
I mean, I hate to give anything like that legs. There's zero. I told you last year, right? You know what I mean? You guys could write and say what you want about me, but I mean, I told you there's zero chance I'm walking away. You know what I mean? Zero. And, you know, there's no quitting me, you know, so that's unequivocally 100% false. You know, and anybody says otherwise is lying.
You said at the start, we're not where we want to be.
And I don't want to address that crap no more.
I don't want to address that crap no more, Matt.
Yeah, I didn't believe that report when it came out. No offense to the person that brought it up. I think what did happen is there was a conversation at the end of the year. You have to understand, Mark Stoops is a very fiery guy. I think you all probably know that. And you can get in conversations with him where it can be tough. I've been in them before, right? And he gets angry. And then sometimes things happen and he comes back and everything's fine. So I think they had a conversation, a lot of which was about, okay, are you all going to invest in this program, NIL, et cetera? And there was some talk about it, and maybe he got an answer he didn't like. And he said, well, if that's the way you feel, then you could just buy me out. But then they got to where they needed to be. Kentucky actually spent pretty good money on NIL this year, and I think everything was in a positive place. So no, I do not believe he said, go buy me out, I want to leave. I do not. That didn't happen. I'm not exactly sure why that came out, but I don't think that's true.
Nor do I understand why it would be in his best interest to do so because of the buyout and when it's due. Like, why would you ever negotiate for less? His stance needs to be fire me. Tell him that, Andy.
The Huel Black Edition. Best complete meal that you can find. Take the powder, you throw it in the bottle. Take the bottle. You have a complete meal. 40 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals. Huel is the #1 complete nutrition in the world. Use the promo code STAPLES15 for 15% off, plus a free gift. Your first purchase is $75 more. Plus, check out Huel Daily Greens. In one beautiful drink, you get 42 vitamins, minerals, and superfoods, super greens, adaptogens, lion's mane mushroom, 4 grams of fiber, electrolytes, and antioxidants. So go to Huel.com. That's HUEL.com. Use the code STAPLES15 for 15% off your first purchase of $75 more, plus a free gift. Yeah, what Ari said, Matt, is, and I agree with this, why would anybody in their right mind even entertain negotiating this thing down? If somebody owes me $37 million in 60 days, by God, pay me $37 million in 60 days.
Yeah.
Well, that's the rub. That's the rub. There's no incentive whatsoever for Marks. Mark Stoops has them by the, as they would say, the short hair. Like, there's nothing they can do about it. I mean, really, they're stuck. Now, the one little caveat that I would note is that a lot of coaches don't really care what the fans think. Like John Calipari, he either was oblivious to what the fans thought or did not care. It was like, it doesn't matter. That's not how Stoops is. He feels the criticism, feels it in his bones. He knows, and he hates it. He wants to be liked. So that might play a small part. It's very good relations with the donors that would have to pay this buyout. Like, they're very close. I would say they're very good friends. So maybe there's some way that something gets worked out that is different than in normal circumstances. But if you owe me $37 million, why would I take 15, right? I mean, why would you do it?
And I
could see a world.
I wouldn't take 37 over 6 years unless you're bumping that up to 50 over 6 years or 60 over 6 years.
That could be what happens. I think that's the sneaky thing to see what happens is there a way that it gets stretched out over time? That would not shock me, because the problem for Kentucky is not money. They actually have more money than you would think for the success that the football program has had. The problem is, literally, this is the worst year it could have happened. The worst year it could have happened, because they have a lot of stuff coming due and they have some investments they want to make. And it's just not an ideal to actually have the cash flow this year. Longer term, I think paying it would not be as big a deal.
Well, I cannot wait to see what happens. this adds a lot of drama, I feel like, to the Kentucky-Texas game next week, which could be dramatic anyway if Texas loses to Oklahoma. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on in Austin too. But
let me say this, by the way. One of the things Mark Stoops always done a great job at is winning the game you do not think he will win. Right? Like he's always been good at that. They beat Ole Miss last year. We were having these conversations last year. And then they went and beat Ole Miss on the road, and all of a sudden the conversation stopped until the end of the year. I fully expect Mark's going to win a game. Those games I read on the schedule, he's going to win one of those. I don't know which one it's going to be, but he's going to win one that nobody expects him to win, and that will – but that's why I think he's got to win two, because Kentucky fans are kind of used to him winning one every year. It would not shock me if they beat Texas or they beat Florida or they beat Tennessee. But I think he's going to have to show he wins more than one, because unfortunately for him, he's done that every year, including last year with that Ole Miss win.
I'm going to speak. I don't know if you use sign language.
Ari, I wish I could read sign language. In South Africa, sign language is an official language, and you could have actually been able to speak it.
I just said you're a very good-looking man. Andy, I
can't hear him.
The notion of you're going to have to translate this for me.
I will. I'll
the notion
translate.
that he's going to win a game or win two of those games and make things harder, like, to me, is such a bizarre thought process, because the entire point of being on the hot seat, the entire point that Kentucky fans are upset is because they're not expected to win some of those games. Like that, like winning a game as an underdog doesn't do anything. The fact that Kentucky fell from a place where they were either favored or expected to win them is the problem, right?
Yeah. So, one, Matt, Ari says you're very good looking. Two, he said this conversation about winning a game you're not supposed to win, and I actually feel like it's a conversation Ari and I had about Florida after Florida beat Texas too. But the fact that they keep they'll occasionally win a game they're not supposed to win, is that not the problem? Because Kentucky had gotten to a point under Mark Stoops where they were supposed to win most of the games.
Yeah.
And they're not supposed to win most of the games. And that seems to be the bigger issue.
Here's where fans are for Kentucky. This is how Kentucky fans judge the program. Three games. South Carolina, Vandy, Louisville. That's where they judge it. They like beating these other teams. I mean, remember, there were like 5 years in a row that we beat Florida, or 4 out of 5 years.
Yeah.
But really, South Carolina, Vandy, Louisville, the assumption, whether it's fair or not in Lexington, is, okay, we get it. We might not be able to beat Georgia. We might not be able to consistently beat Tennessee. But there is no reason structurally we cannot beat Vandy, South Carolina, and Florida. Vandy, South Carolina, and Louisville. And what happened is South Carolina has blown the doors off Kentucky 2 straight years, not even been competitive. Vandy has beaten Kentucky in Lexington 2 of the last 3 years. And then Louisville, Kentucky had owned Louisville for a long time, and last year was uncompetitive and Kentucky quit. So I think the more interesting thing is they've already lost to South Carolina, really was not all that competitive. Vandy and Louisville is where you see it, because Kentucky fans they're unreasonable when it comes to basketball. They are not unreasonable when it comes to football. They get it. But their theory is we play South Carolina, Vandy, and Louisville every year. There is no reason on earth those teams should be blowing us out. And last year, all 3 of them blew Kentucky out. And this year, South Carolina already has.
Well, I don't know if this is all going to last this long, Matt, but I have a feeling like when Florida comes up to Lexington to play, we need to get the Gators Online crew and the KSR crew together, and like our posters and for Gators Online and our posters for KSR. They all need to gather maybe at KS Bar and commiserate, because I feel like they're kind of in the same boat right now.
They are, except Florida's expectations should be a lot higher. That's one of the best programs in the country. But here's what I expect to happen. This is my prediction. Kentucky plays Texas next week closer than you would think. Probably loses at the end, but plays them close. They get destroyed by Tennessee. Everybody's out, right? Then they play, like, I don't know when they play Florida, but they end up beating Florida.
Right about then.
They'll beat Florida. That'll be my prediction. They will beat Florida. And then when they beat Florida, people are going to go see and come into the Vandy and Louisville game with a chance to save the season, And then they'll end up losing both of them. That's my prediction. 4-8, and they beat Florida as a win that gives people hope, and then Vandy and Louisville rip it out of our bodies.
That is also the best for ratings for KSR and for.
Well, no, people have already moved on. I mean, in all
they're
seriousness,
on to Mark Pope and basketball.
See, that's another thing. That's an underrated part of why this has been tough for Mark. Mark had the benefit of Cal was very unlikable at the end, and he was underachieving. And so fans loved Mark in comparison to Cal. The problem is they love Mark Pope. I mean, they love Mark Pope. And because Stoops now seems like the less likable of the two, that's hurting him as well. And people are as excited about this Kentucky basketball team as they've been in a long, long time. And so I can tell you the moment Georgia scored those 2 touchdowns to end the first half, or excuse me, Georgia scored and Kentucky didn't score at the end of the first half, people switched to basketball at that moment.
And they've spent too much money on football to allow that to happen because Kentucky does care about football. Kentucky fans do care about football.
Do.
I think that's nationally one of the biggest misconceptions. Like they care.
Kentucky's
football.
better this year. They're better than they were last year, but their schedule's not going to show it because they're not going to win these games. But they have more talent than they did last year.
This is going to be fascinating to watch. Matt Jones, thank you. I'm so glad you didn't crash. We will figure out a way to get you to hear Ari, but I almost wonder if it's like if we need to have you see a doctor. But
No, I don't think it's me. I didn't hear the Mark Stoops press thing either, but I will say, as the very first On3 hire, even when On3 wasn't an actual thing, it was just a theory. It's very nice to have you all on board.
Oh, we're so happy to be working with you, Matt. You are the best, and thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Drive safe.